episode 238 of the All the Books Show. Recorded at the David A. Howe Public Library. We talk book news, audio news. I said audio news.
I don't
Thank
know
you
what
very
you
much.
Said. Yeah, everything you've said has been a little off.
Did I say
but
audio news?
Yeah, you did.
So after I said audio news wrong, and then I made sure you knew I said audio news. You just didn't correct me.
I guess I thought maybe you were trying to lean into it.
Book news, author news.
Yeah.
And literary news.
Literary news, yep.
Boy, I still can't do the intro.
That's okay.
I'm Eric Mickles.
I'm Nick Gunning.
I'm the one doing the intro.
I'm the one flabbergasted.
Always critiquing the intro. That's Nick. Always
I'd be mad, but that's fair.
Yeah, always
that's
intro,
true.
never the introer.
Yeah.
So
okay.
That's a DJ at a wedding.
Really?
Yeah. Because the DJ, he's already done like 5 weddings. He's like, always the introer, never the intro.
I've been to some weddings with some supremely bad DJs. Have you?
Sure.
There's one who kept trying to get the electric slide going, and people weren't doing it, and he just stopped the music. He was like, okay, all right, everybody line up over. It was terrible.
Yeah.
It was really bad.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about wedding DJs today.
Have you had a bad wedding DJ, though? Call in. Yeah. In the next 15 minutes, we're going to be taking your calls. We want to hear about your...
Yeah, the phone lines are lighting up.
Okay, Nick, take that call.
You know what? Instead, maybe we should talk about author Gary Paulsen today.
That is kind of a segue from wedding DJs.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit of a... It's a pivot. It's a pivot.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about Gary Paulsen.
Pivot.
Featuring Gary Paulsen's book, Woods Runner, as part of our Revisiting the Founding Era grant. Eric's doing a book club with some hip teens talking about this book. So we thought we'd just take a look at Gary Paulsen, the whole package.
The whole package that is Gary Paulsen.
But before we do that, why don't we hop in with some bookmark?
Hop into the old bookmark jacuzzi.
That's right. Are you ready to talk about bookmark things?
All right. The jacuzzi is on. The water's bubbling. It's nice and warm. Get on your swim trunks and jump in. It's time for the bookmark jacuzzi.
Look, I like your enthusiasm, so I don't really...
All right, Nick. Hey, why don't you tell me what you've read before that jacuzzi makes all those book pages too wet to read?
Well, I read Robert B. Parker's Wonderland, as I was mentioning last episode. This is by Ace Atkins. The second of his Spencer books. He took over after the late Robert Parker passed, and I really didn't like it. But the reviews online are weirdly positive, so
yeah,
maybe it's just
that happens. Remember how many people love The Institute? It's got like 4.3 on Goodreads.
I will never understand that.
It's like... bunch of psychic kids are locked up in Maine controlling those people to write those good reviews.
I know. That to me is bizarre.
Yeah.
I read several graphic novels, and I shall proceed to tell you about them.
Sweet. Yeah, do so. Do you want any you want some Coca-Cola? Pepsi?
I would love that.
All right, let me pass it over.
Do you really have some?
Yeah, to go with the jacuzzi setting.
Okay. You would drink like a can of soda in a jacuzzi?
Well, drink it over the jacuzzi, please.
That's weird.
My parents will kill me if you get Pepsi in this jacuzzi.
I read Billy Batson and the Magic of Shazam.
Okay.
Mr. Mind Over Matter. This is volume 2 of the Art Baltazar and Franco series. It is so weird.
You just went back to reading Shazam?
I did, because we got a cool Shazam interview lined up. And so I'm in the zone about Shazam now. In the coming weeks, we're going to be interviewing Mr. John Davey, the actor who played Captain Marvel / Shazam in the 1970s Saturday morning show Shazam, which is tons of fun. So we're going to be talking to Mr. Davey in a couple weeks here. But Billy Batson and the Magic of Shazam, Volume 2, Mr. Mind Over Matter, is so bizarre because, Art Baltazar.
How bizarre?
Art Baltazar and Franco. I mean, you know their stuff. You've seen all of these graphic novels.
Sure.
They do. The imagery is just so, cartoony and little kid-like, but this actually was kind of, dark. And so it was just such a weird...
Big Disney eyes, but also past the heroin pipe.
You're not that far off. You're really not that far off is the thing. But the first volume of this series is pretty cool, and then when it switches to Franco and Art Baltazar, I just don't think it can find the tone it's going for. So I don't really recommend these.
Sorry.
I do really like Jeff Johns' Shazam, if you want to take a look
Shazam!
at that. Or Elliot S. Maggins' Shazam.
Shazam!
I read Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, Volume 3, Quest for Hope. This was fine, but the Green Lantern Corps, everyone feels a little samey to me.
How dare you?
And this was more of the samey. So
really? So everybody's going around saying Poozer?
Pretty much, yeah.
Really?
Finally, I read He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Origins of Eternia.
Why?
I've been watching the show with my son.
The original?
Yeah.
Like the original 80s one?
Yeah.
So there's no new reboot?
I know. Well, there was a Cartoon Network reboot a couple years ago.
Okay, but you're watching the old one with your son.
Which I've never seen before.
Right.
I wasn't allowed to watch it when I was a kid.
Oh.
So.
Yeah.
But we're having a good time with it, and I just don't know anything about He-Man, so.
You going to get the old 80s toys now for him?
if I could find them, he would love it. He's all about Orko. So
Orko's the wizard thing?
he's the little like
little
flying
annoying thing that
Yeah.
everybody hated?
He loves no. He's not like a Schnarf. It's not a Schnarf Thundercat situation.
Schnarf.
So don't. Yeah.
Did you ever see somebody made a Thundercats trailer, but they used like actual footage from other things and they just like photoshopped? So they took Brad Pitt from Troy.
Oh,
and
I
made
have.
him, like,
yes,
yeah.
I have seen that.
And they took Garfield from the live action Garfield movie and made him Snarf.
yeah.
That's it.
We should share that on Twitter because
All right.
that is priceless.
Snarf.
But this was kind of weird. It was like this whole
Lions.
this is technically volume 2 of the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe series,
but you reading this just by yourself,
yeah, it's
not
just
with your son.
It's just Jeff Johns wrote the first one. You know,
Huh.
I mean, it's all. But this was kind of a weird volume. It was like each issue was just an origin story of a He-Man character, like Man at Arms, and Orko got his own. You know.
Yeah, sure. Like when
so-
C-3PO gets a story.
Fine. Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
The one about his red arm though
So sad.
is very sad.
Yeah,
it's
a
very sad.
Yeah.
My wife and I were just playing the Lego Force Awakens game,
Mhm.
and you can do that level, and the level makes it kind of goofy. And I was like, "No, this story is serious, and it's so sad."
Who prints out the He-Man comics?
Well, these are all in the DC app,
Oh,
so DC has the rights.
Warner Brothers. Yeah.
I also read a while back. I read the He-Man Thundercats
Right.
crossover, which was fun.
Are you and your son going to watch the Masters of the Universe live action 80s movie?
With Dolph Lundgren,
Yeah.
maybe. That's it for me, though.
All right. How you feeling? You want me to turn up the heat or like lower the bubbles on this bookmark jacuzzi?
I'm actually getting a little overheated. So
Really?
If
All
I
right.
could
I'll turn off the
if I
heat.
could have another can of Coca-Cola in this imaginary
Okay.
jacuzzi.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah.
Anything new? I mean,
No,
you
I'm doing
know-
all right in this thing.
Yeah, you
I
are.
keep the bubbles keep going up my bathing suit, and then it looks like I've just got this big puffy
That's
bathing
funny.
suit.
That's classic.
So then when all the bubbles come out, it wasn't me. It was the bubbles
yeah.
in the
Yeah.
jacuzzi makes the bathing suit bubbly.
This is a weird bit, but I'm here for it.
Anyway, I'm still reading Altered Carbon. Still really, really, really liking it. I'm watching the anime series Gungrave, which will be added into the library collection very soon.
Oh,
And it's certainly not waiting for me to finish that
Okay.
the show.
what is Gungrave? I don't know anything about it.
It's an anime series / video game.
Oh.
It's a crime anime where it's following these two
Crime.
childhood friends as they go up. One of them is like this very quiet hitman who's very loyal to the organization, and one is Harry McDowell, not a nice guy who's making sure he's at the top, and maybe he makes some choices that wreck that friendship, and now a certain person is like an undead gunslinger.
Wow,
So
there's a lot going on.
yeah. Pretty good.
Gungrave.
Yeah, Gungrave.
Gungrave.
It was a PS2 action game that I never played.
Gungrave sounds like John Gungrave. You know,
One
what
of the
I
characters is
mean? like
is-
a 1950s.
one of the characters is
show.
retitled Beyond the Grave.
Oh,
That's the name of the
Like a
character.
Beyond
Like, look
Burger.
out, Beyond the Grave is coming.
Huh.
Oh, hey, Beyond the Grave. How's it going?
is that true?
Yeah.
I don't like that.
All right. It's just
Okay.
it's just the genre, I
All right.
guess.
Should we take a look at some book news?
I thought I was reading something. Oh, I've got to start reading Dread Nation.
Yes, by Justina Ireland.
Yes.
Who we are also interviewing in
Mhm.
a couple of weeks. So we got a full slate. All right, let's get into some book news, shall we?
Yeah, I'm going to turn off the jacuzzi now that we're done with
I think you
bookmark.
probably should.
All right.
I think you probably should. Well, first we have some sad news to report. Clive Cussler, author of more than 80 books, passed away at the age of 88. So most well known for his Dirk Pitt novels. Has remained
Pneumophiles,
a
yeah.
fixture on the bestseller list.
Yeah.
Still putting out hardcovers. I know there's at least one coming out still.
Yeah.
So
He's been co-writing with his son,
Yeah.
Dirk Cussler.
Yep.
For a
Yep. His writing period was 1973 all the way up through the present. And I was looking into this, trying to see, like, surely I have read a Clive Cussler, I've seen the movies, or nothing. I have nothing to add to this,
Sorry, man.
unfortunately. What about you?
I've read The Mediterranean Caper.
Which is the first Dirk Pitt?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And?
It was definitely from the early 70s.
Yeah,
It has that vibe throughout it.
Is
So
like James Bondy, or was it like, a caper? So
he
was
is
it
more
like a-
James Bondy in his certain ways.
Oh, like
to
Sean
treating-
Connery
Yeah,
James
he's a
Bondy?
bit more
Okay.
Sean Connery, James Bondy,
I
the
hear
way
ya.
he treats
I
the
hear ya.
opposite sex. But it's capery. I know that, like, the Titanic one, the Raise the Titanic, is a big one.
Yes, yeah.
So,
which was made into a movie,
mhm.
which I have not seen.
yeah. I've seen Sahara.
The one with Steve Zahn.
I
don't
Matthew
think
McConaughey.
I don't think anybody was super happy with that
I think
one.
Clive Cussler actually had to, like, sue them for some issues.
I think that was
they wanted to make like a series
not a
and
pleasant
stuff.
situation. But many series. I think Dirk Pitt, like I said, is probably the most well-known. 25 books in that series.
He was 88 years old.
Yeah. 17 in the Numa Files series.
You always knew
14 in the Oregon Files.
Yeah.
So Isaac Bell series, Fargo Adventures.
You always knew you were looking at a Clive Cussler book by the cover.
I know. I guess that's what I have.
Yeah.
We have a lot to reminisce about that because especially when we were doing more
an
advanced
iceberg
notices.
and a ship, and maybe there's a plane that's on fire and heading into a tornado.
Yeah.
And also maybe like
smashing into a train full of Nazi gold.
Yes.
You know.
The artist working on the Clive Cussler novel's like, all right, I'm in.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
So
that's true. I guess that's why I maybe feel more connected to Clive Cussler than I actually am. Because
the covers of those books, they just were so action and adventure, old school like Indiana Jones style thing. That
very pulpy.
You just look at those covers like, I can already imagine exactly what's going on in this.
You know, the thing that makes those stand out so much is that there's nobody else does that.
That's true.
You can't look at another like. But you can't look at another series and mistake it for a Clive Cussler book. Definitely.
There's never people on these covers either.
No.
It's always the vehicles on fire in some capacity.
Yeah.
In some location, they are not safe to be
if
doing
there's
that.
not an open flame on one of these covers, you did something wrong.
Driving down the pyramid.
But I also can't really think of a comparable, like in the genre. I can't think of another, because they're like pure adventure.
Yeah.
You know, it's always been my understanding that they're just like pulse-pounding adventure, just like fun books.
Did you read? He did a whole bunch of like underwater ship explorations.
Yeah,
and
he's written several nonfiction.
He's helped like discover 60 of them.
Yep,
including like the first ironclad used by the Confederacy in the Civil War.
He's got the Sea Hunters: True Adventures with Famous Shipwrecks. He's got Sea Hunters 2: Diving the World Seas for Famous Shipwrecks. Yeah.
It's like him and James Cameron were racing to see who could see most of the ocean.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we were sad to hear about the passing of Clive Cussler. And we have many, many, many of his books. We got a nice display up here at the library, so stop in and check that out. Yeah. What do we got for you? Want to talk New York Times bestseller?
I sure do. I got the young adult hardcover.
Okay.
Always fun to visit the young adult hardcover section of the New York Times bestsellers list. I'm hoping today is no exception.
Me too.
Number 10, 5 Feet Apart by Rachel Lippincott and Mike Daughtry and Tobias Ekon. Why 3 people?
I don't know.
Stella and Will are in love, but they can't get within 5 feet of each other. Played by Jughead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
he's like, I can't get within 5 feet of this hamburger.
That Jughead's never even looked at a hamburger on Riverdale.
That Jughead on Riverdale hates
not
food.
Hungry.
I have to stay lean for wrestling. Number 9. Yes, no, maybe so. We just did this on our Sexy New Books.
Oh, we did, yeah.
Becky Albertarelli and Aisha Saeed. Oh, this is the one where it started with all the stuff about I love Target.
Yeah, that's.
I would adopt the Target dog, and I would treat him like a king. What's his name? Spot?
Yeah, he's got the little like Target logo on his eye. Yeah,
that person is writing.
Yeah,
Target the dog.
Right.
Fan fiction. Where do you think I was going?
It's a niche market. It's a niche market.
Anyway, that's what the book's about. Romance blooms between 2 unlikely teens while working together on an upcoming local election.
Ooh.
Number 8, Children of... Don't say ooh. I read this to you.
I know.
Number 8, Children of Blood and Bone by Tommy Adahami. Zali fights to restore magic to the land of Orisha. Infinity Sun by Adam Silvera. Twin brothers are caught up in a war between the magical spell walkers and the bloodcasters. Yeah. So it's kind of like the Bloods and the
bloodcasters. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. That all seems very 90s, right?
Yeah.
I'm a spell walker.
Yeah.
I'm a bloodcaster.
Remember the books that, like the YA books are about Desert Witch and Ocean Witch and...
I'm talking Truth Witch.
Truth
Witch, Wind Witch, and Blood
Witch. Yeah.
Why are you upset with the... What? Yeah.
I'm not upset with them. I just... It was a funny...
Yeah.
Well, that was all. It was just funny.
All right.
Cactus Witch.
There was no Cactus Witch.
Yet.
Okay. Number 6, The Queen's Assassin by Melissa de la Cruz. Caledon Holt and Shadow embark on a dangerous quest and fall in love.
Oh.
Okay. I guess when you do a description like this, I don't know who Shadow or Caledon are.
I don't either.
So why does this matter? You're just telling me like 2 strangers you've never heard of go on a quest. Cool. The Hate You Give at number 5, 156 weeks on the list by Angie Thomas. 16-year-old girl sees a police officer kill her friend. 4, One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. For 5 students, a detour into detention ends in guess what?
What?
More detention.
Oh, no.
And murder.
Oh, no. It's like in The Breakfast Club where he keeps making him take more. You want more? You got it.
Yeah.
Making the detention more and more and more.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then finally he snaps and kills the kids.
I actually had a situation. Well, it stopped short of murder, but I did have a situation like that when I was in 6th grade where I kept being like, you want more detention? And I kept amping up by 15 minutes.
Uh-huh.
It was a big detention by the end.
And you were just like, okay, so what? You're just too cool for school in this situation? Everyone was like, whoa, Nick's out of control!
I mean, again, you're pretty right.
After class where people were like, man, Nick, you just kept going. Can I buy you a drink?
I don't think anybody offered to buy me a drink.
Can I buy you a chocolate milk?
Yes.
Children of Virtue. Right. Can I get you a Coke Classic? Because Classic is back.
Yeah, it's back. Yep.
I assume at that
90s
time.
were a good time. Yeah, it was a good time. What else we got?
Number 3, Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tommy Adami. Zali must stop a threat to the civil war in Orisha. Number 2, One of Us is Next. Karen M. McManus. In the sequel to One of Us is Lying, a deadly game of truth or dare via text now plagues the students of Bayview High. Bayville? What is Bayville High?
Are you thinking of like Bayview from Saved by the Bell?
That's what it is.
Okay.
But this place is called Bayview as well.
Interesting.
Do you think this is like a crossover?
No, it's Bayside.
Bayside?
Ooh, I almost made a terrible mistake on the internet. It's Bayside.
Sorry.
Bayside is a school that's cool, and you know that.
How many
it's
times
true.
did you play Truth or Dare as a kid?
A lot.
Yeah. All right.
That's
That's it. I was just wondering.
It never ended in like a murder situation.
All right. Truth or Dare?
Dare.
I dare you to murder someone.
No, I must. The integrity of the dare must be.
Number 1, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. What the frick?
I don't
is
know.
everybody murdering people today?
Yes.
Goodness, by Holly
Yes.
Jackson. This is the craze. You asked me, like, the craze. Remember? And I was like, it's taking that, like, girl on a train.
Teen murder.
Like that kind of schlocky murder that's been going crazy in the adult sections for a while. And now it's a little late, but here it is in the YA.
Wow.
It's definitely showed up. Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. While trying to solve a murder-suicide case for her senior project, Pip now finds her life in jeopardy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Poor Pip.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
You ready for...
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Not a ton of new stuff on
I
here.
guess I thought I'd get some energy back from you.
All the Books presents Author Spotlight.
That's so scary.
That was sweet. All right. Gary Paulsen. So I would say most well known for Hatchet.
Hatchet!
And just the concept of the like outdoorsy coming of age book is sort of his domain.
Sure.
Wouldn't you say?
I guess, yeah. That's what I would think.
Your history with Gary Paulsen and Hatchet is much longer than mine. When did you read Hatchet?
8th grade?
Like as a kid. So like you were Brian's age being like, wow, I could be this way.
Yeah, 7th or 8th grade. I had already read My Side of the Mountain as a kid and the sequel, The Other Side of the Mountain.
What? I don't know what those are.
My Side of the Mountain is about a boy who leaves home and lives in a wood. He carves out a tree to turn that into his like house and everything.
Big tree.
He finds it was a big tree. He finds a peregrine falcon egg and raises the chick to be like his partner.
Okay.
He just lives in the woods and takes care of himself. And every now and then he goes back in town. At one point, his dad comes visit and was like, "This is great. I love you."
Mm-hmm.
And as a kid, I was like, I love this. And I read The Other Side of the Mountain. Not as good. It's him letting his falcon go.
How does it relate to Hatchet? I mean, how does it compare?
Well, it's much more of like it's much more family friendly.
I see.
It's one you definitely read younger, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I was already like, man, I really like My Side of the Mountain and that like boy against the wilderness story. And also probably even Where the Red Furnace Grows has a bit of that. So as like a kid, I was in it. The only thing Hatchet is missing is a dog or a peregrine falcon.
True. Yeah.
So
it has a moose.
Yeah.
Or is the moose in the first one? Or is that in one of the later books?
Moose is in Hatchet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So anyways, I read Hatchet for school either in 7th or 8th grade.
Oh, for school. It
yeah.
was like required reading. Okay.
Yeah. I can't remember when, but same thing like My Side of the Mountain. I just kind of like ate it up.
Yeah.
So, and looking at it, it's like not huge.
Uh-huh.
So.
Have you read any of the others?
No.
Okay.
That's where you got me beat.
Oh. Well, my history with Hatchet goes back to the start of this podcast. I don't even remember why, but in the very early days, you were talking about Hatchet a lot, and I was like, what's that? You were like, what's Hatchet?
You know why?
Why?
Because when I first started working here and I was reading some YA books, one of the first books I picked up was Adrift by Paul
Right.
Griffin.
Yes.
And I thought that was a good book to read if you've read Hatchet.
Yeah.
It's that kind of survival teen story
That's
with
right.
4 kids that are like lost on just like a canoe or just on a boat out in the water, and nobody can find them, and they're having to like fight starvation and exposure and all this stuff. And that was when you were like, I've never read Hatchet. It was shocking.
And so then I picked up Hatchet, and I mean, it didn't even stand out in my head like what you were talking about. But when I saw the book cover and everything, I was like, oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
I've seen this a million times. But I just
You
never
couldn't
picked
read
it up.
Hatchet. You had too much attention. That
Yeah,
was when everyone
I
else
kept
was
going.
reading Hatchet.
I
Yeah.
kept going.
If you keep going, you're not going to read Hatchet. You're going to be in detention.
So did you know that there were more to the series and you just weren't interested?
Yeah,
or you, okay.
I think I had some experiences as a kid reading sequels to these like really good books and being very disappointed. So I think after reading something like The Other Side of the Mountain, I was like, I'm not reading Brian's Winter.
Okay.
So
Well, Hatchet has kind of a weird history. So after we did that episode, I went out and read Hatchet.
you read a whole bunch of Hatchets.
I did, yeah, and I really liked the first one. I mean, I was really into it. It's what, 5? I think it's 5 books. Yeah, 5 books.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read anything of Gary Paulsen's outside of Hatchet and Woods Runner?
No.
Okay. The sequel is called Brian's River. The river, just
Right.
the river.
The river.
And it's like it's a weird one. It's like he goes with a reporter to like look at where he was,
Right.
and it's like a rescue from Gilligan's Island situation
Right.
where it's like we're trapped again,
Right, yeah.
and something happens to his little friend, and he's basically has to get down a river.
It's season 4 of Arrow.
Yeah, with a guy who's unconscious but alive, like a full-grown man. Who he's got to drag around and like go down a river. And actually, I thought it was pretty exciting. If you can swallow the fact that like Brian is lost again, it's kind of a fun book. Here's where it gets weird.
Okay. Yeah.
Because books 1 and 2, fine, that's easy.
Yep.
Right.
Sequel.
Book 3
Brian's Winter.
is like a parallel story.
Right.
It's like pretend Hatchet ended differently. And here's where we are. So I mean, spoiler alert.
So it's basically Terminator Dark Fate.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess so.
Yeah.
In Hatchet, without giving
Here's
things
another
away,
thing about Terminator Dark Fate.
No. There's a thing that happens that leads to Brian getting rescued. I mean, it's a 5-book series.
I
so
guess we should
so it's
tell
not much
listeners,
of a spoiler.
this is about Brian Austin Green, this whole series.
It's not. But I guess we didn't really tell what the Hatchet...
Hatchet is about a boy who's going to visit his father.
Yeah.
And
He's in a small plane.
Yeah, the pilot has a heart attack. The plane goes down.
Yeah.
And
It doesn't go immediately down, though, because it's on, like, autopilot.
Yeah.
And so what happens is he doesn't know what to do. And so
Right.
the plane just keeps flying long past where it's supposed to be.
It goes way off course,
and
yeah.
so nobody's looking in the right place.
so the,
Brian's, what, 12, 13?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
The plane goes down, and now Brian has to like survive now this entire time to be found. And so the reason it's called Hatchets because all he's got is a hatchet.
Yep.
And I mean, he goes into the plane at one point and he gets like some medical supplies and whatnot, but really it's the hatchet that is going to keep him alive. And so he's got to learn to hunt. He's got to learn to take care of himself. He's got to learn to defend himself against the elements. And it's definitely a book that kids just kind of eat up. I sure did.
Yeah, I mean, because it's cool because it's not an adult hero. You
Yeah.
know, it's someone who is their age, like figuring things out and being super cool.
Yeah. Listen, the shadow of Hatchet looms large. Anytime there is a survival story, like that one I read, Adrift, there's always going to be somebody being like, it's like Hatchet. But even that book I read, the one I just read, I Am Still Alive, about the girl who's stuck in the wilderness because her dad is gone, she even references Hatchet. She says, I remember reading a book about a boy who was lost in the woods and all he had was a hatchet. And so, like, even that book has to be like, yes, I know Hatchet exists.
Yeah.
I'm also doing that kind of story.
I don't like that. I don't like when you reference the obvious, you know. Like when something's like, it's just like in a Stephen King book. Like, okay, we get it. That's what you're going for.
All right, don't play Alan Wake then.
Okay. So anyway, this is Hatchet. Brian's just kind of figuring it out, and it ends. There's a way for him to, I don't know. I don't want to spoil it.
Don't want to spoil Hatchet?
Yeah.
This book we all read as kids?
Yeah.
Except for you.
Fine. Okay. So he doesn't die, and he finds a way to get help.
Because of Brian's the river.
And then in the river, this is what I'm saying.
Right.
They go back.
He goes
and
back.
see the space. Blah blah blah.
Yeah. Wait a second. I have to hatchet again.
Brian's Winter is weird because it starts with saying like, so you know how Hatchet ends, right? Forget it.
Yeah.
You
that
know,
was dumb.
Gary Paulsen's basically like, just pretend that when he does the thing that gets him rescued, he does it, but it doesn't work. And so he's stuck in like the Canadian wilderness for the winter. And so that's Brian's
and
winter.
we will call it Brian's winter.
And then the rest of the books kind of follow this alternate timeline. So it's just kind of a strange thing to do.
So this is more like Days of Future Past.
Yes,
X-Men
exactly,
Days of Future Past rather than Terminator Dark Fate.
So in Brian's winter, he's now had... He's had a long time there when the weather's good, but it starts to get cold, and he has to figure out like how to survive through the winter. And Paulsen makes a point of saying like if he'd been stranded in the winter to begin with, dead. He'd be dead, so no way. But accepting that he made his way through like the fall,
and prepared,
that he could probably survive the winter.
All right.
So that one's also pretty good because it's just a different. You don't have to be like, well, why is he back there again or anything like that.
You were making up for some lost time with these Hatchet books.
I guess so.
When you first, this was like I guess this would have been like 5 years ago when I read Adrift.
So then finally you get to Brian's return, and Brian's like, look, this life blows. I want to go back.
I've been here for a whole winter. I have this weird dream of being at the river.
Yeah, and so I mean, basically, he just kind of like goes back, and he's older now, so he can just kind of be like, "Sorry, Mom, I'm out of here."
Oh wait, no. So you're saying Brian's return? He's already home. He's saying like home life blows.
Yes.
I thought you were saying like being in the wilderness states.
Yeah.
I'm going to make my way back home.
Yes.
No.
But here's confusing where I'm not really sure if we're following the river, if we're following Brian's winter, but don't get bogged down on it. Basically, Brian goes back and has just kind of another like
he has a my side of the mountain situation.
So so it's not. This one doesn't really. I don't know. It doesn't really have much going on. Like the writing is good, it's enjoyable, but it's just kind of like whatever.
Yeah.
Cut to a long time later, and we end the saga with Brian's hunt. This one is pretty rough because Brian is really just kind of a know-it-all jerk this whole time. There's like mountain rangers and people who's like it's their career, and he's like, yeah, whatever, princess. I'm gonna go out here in the woods, do whatever I want.
Right.
But he finds a wounded dog.
Finally.
And he and the dog have to like survive together.
About time.
There's a whole thing with like he meets some Cree and they're trying to like forge this relationship. But it's just he has become such an unflattering character that you don't like it.
Yeah.
So I would say maybe get through Brian's winter and then stop after that.
And then you're out, yeah.
Do you ever see yourself reading these again?
Maybe.
Because you could just pick up Brian's winter. You wouldn't need to read the river.
Or the river.
Yeah, either one.
You just pick them all up.
Either one would be fine. Yep. All right. Let's see. What else have we got here?
We got Woods Runner.
Yes.
We're not talking about Woods Runner?
Let's
both read it.
Let's talk Woods Runner.
All right.
So go.
So Brian is now in the Revolutionary War.
Look, that's pretty much true.
No, Wood Runner is about this boy who he lives. Where is it? Virginia is where it starts.
Yes.
Yeah. He's living in Virginia during the Foundation era.
Yes.
Of America. His parents are they seem to be very like the intellectuals, like an artsy type. They like chess. They like enjoying nature from a view. They're not really outdoorsy wilderness people. But the main character, whose name is Samuel, he basically like lives in the woods. He knows the woods. He can tell you if you hear a stick crack, he can tell you if it's a bear, if it's a moose, if it's a person.
Right.
He's that in tune.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Revolutionary War is going on, and his parents get kidnapped by the British. And so, or I guess the Redcoats, because at that point, everybody's British.
But in conjunction with like Native Americans working with the British.
Yeah. And so his parents get kidnapped, and so now this boy, who wasn't there during that attack, he is on a journey up from Virginia to New York to find his family. So
I don't remember quite how he figures it out that because most of the village is killed. He's one of the few survivors.
He can't find his parents. I think he sees like footsteps and whatnot. And he gets found by a group later on who says, "I saw someone that looked just like you but older." Yeah. And so he knows his parents are on their way to New York.
That's
the greatest city in the world.
Yeah.
The greatest city in the world.
So basically, he's going along and he's picking up skills and he's learning to survive and he's falling in with other travelers and that sort of thing. And there comes a point where it's like, is he going to go where he knows it's safe, Philadelphia?
Yep.
Or is he going to follow the trail of his parents and go to New York, which is like basically British territory at this point?
Redcoat territory.
Redcoat territory.
Yeah, they were all British at that time.
Yes, thanks. Thank you. And I think overall the book works pretty well. And each chapter has a little section of like historical context. So it balances out with some nonfiction, which I think is good. I
the
think
British
it's good for a book club and
weaponry
things.
worked like this.
Yeah. Nothing. He's got nothing good to say about the was it the German soldiers at the time?
The Hussians.
Yeah, that's some rough stuff.
Yeah.
It does feel very Hatchety, I've got to say.
Yeah, I think
Especially when we get to the ending. The ending feels very much.
it's so A to B that I felt like, I don't know, it's quick. I feel like there's not a lot of meat on the bones, like with the character or whatnot, but it's also been forever since I read Hatchets, so maybe it's very similar to all that. Like, I wasn't really super intrigued, but I think kids would dig it.
Yeah.
Because it's just like that adventure. It's just that, it's that tour through it. It's very quick.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff happens. I mean, there's plenty of like action and death.
I think it is. I think you
Drama.
got to look at it for the audience that it's written for, because I was a little I found like some of the characterizations should just be a little like, look, this person is noble. There you go.
Yeah.
This person is bad. There you go. And there's not a lot of like nuance within that. Everything's very cut and dried, and so for me, it wasn't a super compelling read.
Right.
But I think like it is for the age, it would be good.
I think this was the first time reading or interacting with Revolutionary War fiction or whatnot where I was just like, you know what? We've come to the point now in history where like the Revolutionary War technological wise is just so alien at this point.
Yeah.
Like even when Paulsen's talking about how the weapons work and tactics and all this stuff, I'm like, this isn't, it feels like it's not even part of history, and it's just so far removed. You know, when you think about like the First World War and how like technology was like changing everything, and but they were still using horses and all this stuff, and just the difference between that and World War II. And then you go Revolutionary War, it's just like they using guns that can't hit to save, you know.
Well, I think you'd almost have to make no changes and just say like, this is on the planet Twelnak 7.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
it's just so bizarre.
Yeah. Which is why I think the historical context is good, because it kind of fills it out for you. And
it makes you realize just like how primitive. Like,
it is informative.
It
really is informative.
Yeah, I learned some stuff.
How do you think the book club's going to react to it? Do you think you'll get a lot of responses?
Kids are so
to
unpredictable.
I know, that's true.
Let's see. What stories did we read?
Some of it's
like
kind of intense. I mean, some of the violence and things are it's pretty chilling.
It might be one of the more
places.
intense things
that
they read. But they read some pretty impressive stuff these days just in class. I'm hoping they like it.
Yeah.
I think they will. I mean, it's got that kind of like educational vibe that like tricks kids into thinking, you know how like any World War II fiction kids book is going to like do hot business here.
Right.
It kind of has that vibe. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm not really learning.
Yeah.
But
Well,
this is cool.
I think it's interesting that it is a Revolutionary War and not one of the other things that are so like you said, World War II right now.
Thank goodness.
Like in the last couple of years, like adult fiction has been very World War II heavy. You know, you don't get a lot of like Revolutionary War stuff, which is why it works so well for our programming
we had to
right
we were doing specifically a book club for kids that had to be Revolutionary War, and there are some, but like this was one that was like, oh, this looks short enough. This looks like we can get enough copies. It looks like if Gary Paulsen's kind of like a name. It really was just like a wow, what a lucky pick this was.
It's true. It's really true. Yeah, I did have it. I enjoyed reading it. You know, I had a good time picking it up. I do think.
I think as a kid, had like this been out after I read Hatchet, I would have like ate it up as well. So
yeah. So do you? I mean, what are your feelings about Gary Paulsen in general? I mean, is it something that? Because you seem to have a lot of strong feelings about Hatchet, just when we talked about it all those years ago.
Yeah, Hatchet's my favorite character.
Yes, but it seemed like it made a real impact on you.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
like it stuck with you.
I mean, as a kid, I mean, that was when we did talked about Jack London and like White Fang, Call the Wild, My Side of the Mountain, Where the Red Fern Grows, Hatchet. Like as a kid, I just really liked the like boy in the wilderness stories.
Yeah.
As a kid, I think Hatchet is definitely like, out of all those books, Hatchet is definitely like, you know, it's the one that's geared to like that specific age. It was cool. It was a step because it's a bit more intense. I mean, he gets mauled by that moose.
Yeah.
At that point and everything. You can't write a kid's survival book now without some sort of person referring back to
in many
Hatchet.
ways, it kind of defined the genre. You know, it took something for a particular age and really became the gold standard for that. I mean, just like you're saying, you can't think coming of age without thinking of this book.
Yeah.
And I think outside of Hatchet, I think Brian's Winter is probably my favorite of the Gary Paulsen books that I read, just because it adds that element of like cold and
it's a little weird.
And it's weird.
That just kind of happened.
Yep.
Another universe.
The only other thing that I've read by Gary Paulsen is, let me see if I remember, Tracker.
Tracker.
Have you heard of Tracker?
Yeah, I have heard of it. I haven't read it.
It's about a boy who is
a tracker.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
he hunts with his family, like basically for survival. He and his grandfather do this every year, and his grandpa gets sick, and it sort of becomes up to him, and it becomes a little like philosophical. He's trying to I don't know. He's come to terms with his own feelings about killing an animal and the need to survive and what it means to be doing that on his own instead of with his grandpa. It's very slim. This is really more a novella than anything else, but I really enjoyed it. Yeah. It's the same. Something about his writing that I think that is just personal. Do you know what I mean? It feels relatable in a way that I don't often find with, especially young adult or junior fiction. That I don't typically feel that way. But every single book that I've read of his, even this one most recent, I do sort of find that connection there. So I think that really speaks to his writing.
I was an adult 5 years ago when I picked up Adrift, but I picked up Adrift because I thought, oh, this will be similar to Hatchet.
Yep.
And only just a few months ago did I read I Am Still Alive because of Hatchet. So 20-something years later, I'm still picking books because they remind me of Hatchet. He did a job, I guess. 200 books, that's so many.
Yeah.
We have so many of his other books, though, in our collection. So, I think we have all of his Hatchet books, all of his Brian
The
adventures.
Brian Saga.
Yeah, but just a whole bunch of his other books. He's got this...
There's Dog Song and Wood Song. Those were pretty popular,
Yeah,
as I
that's
recall.
true.
Well, thank you for introducing me to Gary Paulsen. Thanks for finding this book for the book club. And once you finally do the book club, you're going to have to come back and tell us how it went. Unless it went poorly, in which case we will never speak of this again.
They loved it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for our Gary Paulsen Spotlight. Thanks for tuning in for that. As Eric said, we have many, many of his books right here in the collection, including at least some audio and ebooks over on our digital collection, Libby and Overdrive. So if you're not local, you can do that, or you can go to your local library as well. What do you got?
I'm looking at Wood Song, and part of me wonders if I did read it as a kid. Because
Pre-Goodreads. How are you ever going to know?
Yeah, I did read some Iditarod books as a kid. Oh my gosh, Winter Dance, another Iditarod book that he wrote, is the inspiration for the Disney movie Snow Dogs.
Whoa, I don't think he wants you telling that. All right.
Yeah.
Well, as we mentioned early on, we've got several cool interviews coming up. So
super cool.
A lot of episodes that I'm excited about. So keep an eye out for that. Remember to rate and share the podcast and all that. You can follow us on Twitter at All the Book Show.
Tip your waiters.
Other places they can find us, Eric? Do you remember? David A. Howe Library on Facebook.
They can find us at Twitter.
Yeah.
You said that.
Yeah.
SoundCloud.
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Twitch.
We're everywhere.
Yeah.
All right.
Goodreads? No, that's just the library.
We do have
Goodreads.
a library Goodreads page.
The David A. Howe Public Library Goodreads
Twitter is
page.
probably the most interactive place that we have. So go and find us on Twitter. But please take a minute to rate on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. That's very helpful.
Yeah. You know what? We'll take a 1-star rating at this point.
I would rather
nice.
not. I would rather not.
Just to get some feedback.
I would rather not.
Just be constructive with your feedback. Don't just do 1 star and then walk
sure,
away.
that's
Do
fair.
1 star
Yes,
and then tell us how stupid our voices
If
are.
you've got a really good 1-star review, I actually do want to see it. So
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
These two idiots. Be fun.
On that upbeat note, let's pack it in. We'll see you next time.